Hi, this is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business. Today I'm going to review the accounting features of Aplos church and nonprofit accounting software. So I've already signed up for my trial subscription. You can get a 30-day free trial. Answered a few questions about the size of my organization, the needs of my organization, so that they can kind of customize the software for my organization to start off. So here we're at the dashboard. Oh, let me click on the dashboard. Now we're at the dashboard. It gives us a basic overview: cash balance, income, and expenses. First thing I want to look at is, can we customize the chart of accounts for accounting purposes? So if we look over here at fund accounting is where we're going to find most of our accounting functions. And under fund accounting we have accounts, and they call it an account list, but that's a chart of accounts, and here they do call it the chart of accounts. So this is true fund accounting software, so we can designate multiple funds, so we can track how much is in each fund, make sure our organization is using their funds according to donors' requirements, if any. We have accounts, so looks like we have the basic asset types, or account types: asset, liability, equity, income, and expense. Within assets, we have current and fixed. We can easily add additional types of assets if we wanted to, maybe some other long-term assets. If we want to add additional current asset accounts, we can click there on the plus sign and enter additional asset accounts. And so that's true of all of our different types of accounts. So the chart of accounts, 100% customizable and very easy to do so. Okay, now let's look closer at the accounts payable function. So the first thing is, can we keep a list of vendors? And I'm sure we can here, probably under people. And so while we're under people here, let's see this plus button up here. Let's just add a contact. And this provides a lot of detail. So multiple phone numbers, emails, addresses, events, custom fields. If they're a vendor that you have to issue a 1099 to, so let's say they were an independent contractor, that you had to issue a 1099 NEC, you could indicate that here. Very good. So let's enter a company here that we're going to do some bills with. So let's enter the company name, and let's just say it's Office Supply. So this is our Office Supply company. Let's see, does it require anything else? I don't think so. So let's just keep it at that. Save and close. Okay, so now we've set up a vendor for office supplies. Okay, so the next thing, let's see if we can go in and enter a bill. See how hard that is. So under our fund accounting, under transactions, let's go to our accounts payable function. And this is laid out pretty unique. I've never quite seen it laid out like this. I kind of like it. So at the very top here is your accounts payable aging. Then you can enter a new bill here without actually having to go to another screen. It's right on that screen. And then you can pay bills on the same screen as well. So that's a pretty unique layout, but I think it's very efficient. I kind of like it. So let's enter a new bill from our office supply company. So office supply company. It looks like we could add a contact on. I like to call it adding a contact on the fly here. If we haven't set them up yet, we could do so right now, but we already have them. So office supply company, office supplies. Let's just use today's date as the bill date. Okay. Terms, let's say they gave us net 30 terms. That would make it due on the 23rd of February. And an amount, let's just say $1,000. So they sent us a bill for $1,000. We're entering it. Okay, so let's select an account. We want this to be an expense account, so office supplies, and we'll have it come out of our general fund. Interesting, they have a percentage and an amount. Well, what if we enter the, let's see, if we just enter the percentage, would it 100%? Yeah, okay, then it fills out the amount of $1,000. Okay, so very easy to bill one expense amount to multiple accounts, but we just want it to all go to our office supplies. Very good. We could add other rows to and show the other expenses. So let's submit this $1,000. Okay, very good. So it shows up here now in our accounts payable aging. We have $1,000. It's not overdue yet. It'll come due. It's like February 24th. Okay, so let's see about paying the bill. So down here we have pay bills, and we have to indicate what account we want it to come out of. Checking account. Okay, it's going to list all of our bills here. Very good. Now we need to pay a bill. So it shows our checking account has 0. We haven't collected any money yet. So see if it lets us pay it. I'd assume it would let us pay it even though we don't show any money. Maybe it'll give us a warning. Now, obviously, we could pay the full $1,000. That would be the normal thing. But I want to see if we can short pay it. So short paying is when you want to pay only a portion of the bill. So instead of $1,000, let's just pay $800 of the bill. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and show it as of today. Total to pay $800. It's just kind of showing us here we don't have any money in the account, but I think it's going to be fine. So it looks like we have two choices here. We can either just pay the bill or pay the bill and print the check. So if we're paying it some other way, perhaps we're writing a check by hand or we're making an online payment on their website, we could just hit pay bill. But if we actually want to print the check from our system, let's hit pay bills and print checks. Okay, your results are filtered. Click reset filters to see. Okay, so now this has transferred us from the bill pay system to the check system. And so we want to click this button in order to print this check, and our starting check number, we'll say it's 1,000, and let's hit print. Okay, looks like it created a PDF. Okay, there we go. Very cool. Easy to print checks from our system. I'm sure there's a way to go in and down here we have print setup configuration. We printed a voucher. Looks like you could print them 3 to a page if you wanted. Set the top margin, update configuration. So yeah, very cool. And now it shows us as that being paid, and so it is no longer pending print. Okay, very cool. So that was very easy. Let me keep track of how we're doing here in my scorecard so we can easily track unpaid bills. I love the screen where you can do everything all on one screen. Okay, what about collecting a credit from the vendor? So let's go back to our accounts payable page here. So let's say that $200, let's say we returned $200 of the supplies, and now we need to record the credit from the vendor. Okay, so where do we record credits? So pay bills, showing that we still owe 200. That's nice. Under transactions, I'm not seeing a credit there. So I've done a little research, and what I found is that you have to use the account register screen. So they don't have a credit function built into either their accounts payable or their accounts receivable feature. So I'm not thrilled about this, but let's see how it works. So we can go to transactions and registers. Okay, I doubt they have a register for accounts payable. They don't. So we're going to have to make a deposit into the checking account. But see, that doesn't work because we never paid them, right? This would only work if we paid them and then we received a cash amount back, and that is not what happened. And I hate having to record stuff that didn't actually happen just to get to what we want. But I don't know that we're going to have any choice here. So they're not actually giving us money to deposit, right? They're just forgiving this outstanding accounts payable. Okay, well, Wonder if we could do it with a journal entry. But it's complicated making journal entries to accounts payable. We got to be able to select the right accounts payable. Let's give this a shot here. So okay, the date's fine. Memo, record credit from office supply company for two. Yeah, okay. There we go. So we're going to debit our accounts payable, and it needs to be office supply company. Okay, well that's good that Alexis checks it, so it might apply it to the right accounts payable. We're going to debit that for $200, and then we want to credit the expense account, which was office supplies. Okay, and I guess we'll go ahead and put in the payee there as well for $200. So this should do it at least overall, but I'm not sure it's going to apply it correctly to our accounts payable. Okay, so let's go ahead and post it, see what happens. Okay, so now let's go back to our accounts payable. Nope, it still shows this bill overdue. Okay, it shows the bill overdue, but I bet if we go to the let's look at maybe the reports and look at our balance sheet. So if we look at our balance sheet, yeah, if we look at our balance sheet, it's correct, right? It's not showing that accounts payable of $200. It's showing we paid $800 out of our checking account, but it's not showing the accounts payable of $200. So on the overall basis, it's fine, but the overall basis, the accounts payable balance from the balance sheet does not match the accounts payable detail, which is this, and so that is really a big problem. Okay, so there is no way to create a credit memo and offset an outstanding accounts payable. You can do a journal entry like this, which did not work very well. I wouldn't recommend doing this. So I think the only other thing you're going to be able to do is actually pretend like you paid the $200. Yeah, so let's see. Can we go in and delete this journal entry, because this did not work. If you do something like this, it's going to create a mess in the future. So let's see if we can delete this. Okay, so we deleted that journal entry. I think I know how I'm going to fix this. Let's go to accounts payable. Let's just go in and change the amount of the bill. This is not a good solution, but it's probably the best solution we have at this point. It doesn't leave any sort of paper trail, so I really don't like it, but we can go in here. I think we can probably edit this to be $800. Okay, so that did what we wanted to do. So we've got rid of the $800. So that's fine. So that we just went in and changed the amount of the bill instead of entering a credit memo, but that's not sufficient. I mean, it's the best choice we have, but it leaves no paper trail, and so I don't like that. So I'm not going to give Aplos any credit for having that kind of feature. Okay, the last thing I want to see in accounts payable is if we can attach a copy of the receipt to the bill. And so that's kind of a new feature a lot of this accounting software has. And so here's where we enter our bill. I would think if it's going to have it, it's going to be under the more, and it does not have it there. So I see no way to attach a copy of the bill. Yeah, so done a little bit of research. It does not look like you are able to attach a copy of the receipt to the bill. That's not a huge deal, but you will need to make sure you keep paper copies of everything or keep electronic copies in another system. Okay, can we track payments to our independent contractors? Yes, we can. So again, the key there was when you set up the contact, you have to select 1099. Okay, so if we go in here to our office supply, oh, nice, it gives us a list of what's going on with this contact. Well, now I'm not sure where it's at. Well, if we do a new contact, you can come down here, and in our lists you can hit 1099 vendor, and it'll keep track of payments to them. Okay, so yes, so you obviously want to do that for if you have if you need to do any kind of 1099. So if it's somebody you're paying rent to, you're going to have to report the rent paid to them on 1099. Miscellaneous, if it's an independent contractor, you do the 1099 NEC. So good, it does allow tracking for 1099. Okay, so let's look at their accounts receivable. So again, under people, we can add our customers or our congregation, whatever we want to do. Since we're talking about invoices, I'm going to go ahead and call them customers. So perhaps it's somebody we're billing for childcare or something like that. Okay, so let's go for our accounts receivable function again under fund accounting. Accounts receivable looks very similar to our accounts payable. So we have an aging snapshot, then we can create the invoice, then we can pay the invoice. Now, it doesn't look like the invoice is very customizable at all. Looks like you can add a logo, so you can choose the file and add a logo to your invoice, so that's nice, but outside of that, I don't really see any way to customize your invoices. Yeah, so if you want really customized invoices, there are some really good free software out there for customizing your invoices. Zoho Invoice is a great one. But it looks like these are probably going to be fairly plain. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's see how it works to create an invoice. So let's create our first invoice. So let's create an invoice to, I don't know, we'll just call him John Doe. Now we haven't set him up yet, so let's add him as a new contact, add him on the fly, I like to say. Okay. A lot of times it'll pop up and make you enter other stuff, but it did not. That's good. Memo, again, I guess we'll call it childcare. Invoice date is today. Terms, net 30. The amount we're billing him, $5,000. That's an awful lot for childcare, but it's obviously this just a made-up example. Okay, so we want it to go to our well, none of those. So let's see if we can create an account on the fly. Yeah, I don't like that. So we're going to have to go. I tell you what, this is just an example. So obviously you would not call this child. You would not call this. How do I get to appear back there? Let's just call it, contributions income. Obviously that doesn't match our example here, but that's fine. Okay, so for all $5,000 of it. Okay, so let's submit. You have errors in your form. Oh, let's delete this extra row we ended up with. Okay, and submit. Okay. Now how do we print the invoice? Here we go, print invoices. So we probably need to select it here, I suppose. And then we have the choice of either printing or emailing. Let's print the invoice and see what it looks like. Yeah, pretty plain invoice. For church, may not be a big thing to have a flashy invoice. You can add your logo to this, but that's about the only thing you can do. So okay, but we can do that. We can also email our invoice, so that's good. Okay, good. Okay, so what else do we need to do? Well, we need to pay the invoice, don't we? Or actually, I'm sorry, actually receive payment from it. So again, let's do what we did with the accounts receivable. Let's accounts payable. Let's see if we can just receive a short payment. So John here owes us $5,000. Let's say he pays us $4,500, and we'll just receive it today. Looks like that's not going to be a problem. Okay. Why won't it let us receive payment? I'm going to refresh this page. Let's see if that might help. Okay, so $5,000 in our aging schedule. Looks like we are going to receive 4,500. Okay, now it lets us receive the payment. Very good. Okay, so down here it shows we billed 5,000, 4,500. Now, same thing as with the accounts payable, we want to create a credit transaction for the accounts receivable. Again, I've done research. There is no credit function in accounts receivable, just like there's not one with accounts payable. So they suggest going into your cash register and making an adjustment, but we're not going to do that because we've never recorded this $500 into our cash register. So again, I think the best thing we can do is just to go down here and change the amount of the invoice to 4,500. Again, this is really not an acceptable substitute for a credit function, but we really have no choice in this program. Okay. Problem is, it just doesn't leave you any sort of paper trail. You don't show that you originally billed them $5,000. What just happened? Let's refresh again. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. Here we go. So $4,500 fully paid. Nothing is pending being paid. Okay, so good. So we're done with the accounts receivable there. So let me do some grading in my scorecard here. So you can generate invoices. You can accept short payments. You cannot issue a credit memo. Okay. Very good. So the last thing to look at is recurring invoices, and I do believe you can do recurring transactions, but they're in a different spot. So if we go to recurring transactions, and here we can create a recurring transaction. So you could give it a name, give it a schedule. Okay, select a register. Checking, savings, credit card. Okay. So you cannot use this function to create a recurring invoice or recurring bill without paying it. What this does, this doesn't create invoices or unpaid bills. It creates transactions to your checking account or savings account register or to your credit card. So it doesn't record the accrual part of the transaction. It doesn't record the issuing of an invoice or the receipt of an unpaid bill. It records the payment of the bill and the payment of the invoice, which might be fine, but there is a subtle difference to that. So I am going to go ahead. I'm going to give it just half a point because it doesn't really generate recurring invoices. It generates recurring payments from customers. Okay, so the last thing I want to look at, one of the last things I want to look at, is the banking features in Aplos. So can we print a check from the program? Yes, we've already decided we can do that. Can we connect our bank to the software so that transactions flow over automatically? So that would be bank integration. So let's say we are with US Bank. Yeah, looks like there's US Bank. It looks like there's two different ways to connect to your bank accounts. That's kind of, so this Finicity is something I'm familiar with, so we could click here. Then I'm assuming you're going to have to give it some login credentials. So you'll have to be set up on your bank's website. Sure. And now you'll go through and every bank is going to be a little bit different from this screen forward. It just is entering your credentials so that you can sync that bank account with one of your checking accounts or savings accounts or credit card accounts shown in the software. So that should work just fine. Okay. Good. Now the other way the bank integration works that I really like this is if you would rather not. So when you're setting it up to connect to your bank account, you're essentially giving the software giving it the software access to your accounts online. Some people are not comfortable doing that. And so you can come up here to manually import. So you can download from your bank's website, download a file of your transactions, if in a CSV file. If nothing else, sometimes they have a little bit handier files. But you can do that, and then you can come here and you can click and drag that file here, choose which account those transactions belong in, and then hit import, and it'll import that list of transactions. So that's a nice feature to have. So you have some choices rather than just always connecting your bank account. You can bring over the transactions on a monthly basis. Okay. And then can you reconcile your bank accounts? This is awfully important. Let's go to transactions, and here they have bank reconciliation. So let's see. We can manually enter our opening and ending balances. I like that. So our opening balance is 0. That's correct. Our statement ending balance is what? We received $4,500 and we paid $800. So that is what? $3,700. Well, first we have to do an ending date. Let's do February 28th and $3,700, I believe. Okay, so I get this amount right off of my bank statement, right? So I'm going to do start reconciliation. Okay, here it gives us my list of transactions. I'm going to compare this list to the bank statement I received. And I say, okay, we made a payment for $800. Yep, that's on my bank statement. We deposited $4,500. Yep, that's on my bank statement. Down here, it shows us that we are in balance. I can click Finish Now. And there we go. And it gives us this reconciliation statement that I can now print. So cleared transactions, uncleared transactions. So these are what we call our outstanding checks or our outstanding deposits, and it's very important you review these every month, see if they make sense, that they never cleared the bank. Sometimes this could tip you off that there's a transaction in your books that's not correct, because if it never clears the bank, perhaps it was not a real transaction, and vice versa. Perhaps if it doesn't clear your bank, maybe somebody lost the check. So excellent. I really like this bank reconciliation feature, and I like the layout of the bank reconciliation report and how it shows you uncleared transactions. So they get an A+ on reconciling your bank accounts. For some reason, a lot of for-profit software does a horrible job of reconciling bank accounts. So your high dollar item, your QuickBooks Online does really well, but a lot of other less expensive software does not. But this software does really good. A Plus does very good. Okay, last thing I want to look at is the reports that we can generate. But before we do that, let's look quickly at adjusting journal entries. Actually, we've already determined we can record them, but that's something important you need the ability to do. Go to Transactions, Journal Entry, and make a journal entry. So you may not need to do this unless you're an accountant, but perhaps you have an accountant that you work with to keep your books straight. This is something that they'll have to do. And speaking of our outside accountants, can we actually give them access to our books? So I think if we go to our cogwheel here and go to Users, down here, Accountants. So we can actually, by contacting support, we can have them add our outside accountants or bookkeepers so that they can access the books directly and help us keep them clean. So that's very good. So let me put that in my scorecard so we can enter adjusting journal entries and we can provide our accountant access. Now let's look at what reports we have available, and this is the final thing. So we want to have a balance sheet and a either statement of activities or income statement, whatever they want to call it. Okay, we do have balance sheet and income statement. Do we have accounts receivable aging and accounts payable aging? Yes, we have. We'll mark them with stars, accounts payable and accounts receivable aging. Very good. Do we have a general ledger? Yes, we do. Do we have a trial balance? I believe we do, down at the bottom here. Very good. And that's it. Those are the kind of the reports that I feel are the most important for churches and nonprofits to have. So it scores perfectly on our reports section. Very good. Okay, that completes my review of the accounting features of Aplos. Let's look real quickly at a few other things that it does in accounting. So these are not in my scorecard, but I think they're very cool. Fixed assets, you can actually account for your fixed assets. It'll depreciate them for you. However, it looks like it costs $50 a month to do so. You can make allocations across various funds, and that'll help your cost accounting portion. Payroll looks like it integrates with Gusto for easy payroll. E-file, I have never really seen this before. This is very cool. E-file, this program will file your 990 for you. So as long as your books are in good shape, your 990 should be very easy to file. That's a very cool feature. Period close. So period closes are important. You close a period and then nobody can actually make entries to that period. So it's important once you close your books in order to file a tax return, you can't have any more entries into that prior period, or you're going to have to amend your tax return. So it's important to be able to close the period, and then it looks like you can manage some prepaid cards. So very cool. I like the software except for the fact that it doesn't allow you to enter either vendor credits or customer credits. That's kind of a shortcoming, but not a huge deal. So hope this was very helpful to you in making your decision for your church or nonprofit organization. Thank you.